Correct and incorrect.
Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche Podcast. We got AJ, we got Eric, we got Rito on an off day for the Avs, but interesting time in the league. You're roughly at the halfway point. A couple teams have already passed the halfway point, including the Avs, so we figured we'd take a look around to see where things stand around the top of the divisions in the league. But before we do that, a decent amount of Avs-related news today. Starting off with Gabe Landeskog officially skating. Did come out there. I mean, do we really call that skating? I mean, he was on skates, I guess, but
hey, just to see him with the gear on is awesome, right? You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's a start, and then we saw that last year too. Remember, it was just kind of where is this going to lead? Who knows? But it's a good sign. I mean, I think it is a positive. You got to take it as a positive, and I think Ben and I talked about it yesterday. Just to have him around, it's kind of fun for the players, fun for the staff. Right, fun for himself too. You got to remember, we always look at what he does to the team, but what about himself? He's kind of been by himself for big parts of the season, and we tend to forget that. And sure, those things are great in text and group text, but it's not the same thing as being there and putting your gear on and hanging out, having a little bit of food with the fellas. So good on him. It's awesome to see, and hopefully it's a good sign for the next few weeks, months, or whatever it is that to get him. Hopefully back on the ice.
Seems not a great sign that I watched Evan's video of him skating around, and I said, why is Evan taking a video of Rijo skating by himself?
F's in the chat.
That's funny.
Got him.
All right.
It was honestly so great to see him out there. That it's happened. We're in, the second week of January?
Yep.
Well,
Second week of January. That gives him... The postseason starts later than normal this year. Mm-hmm. It's mid-April instead of the first week of April.
Yep.
What's 2 weeks difference going to make? It could be all the difference. That could be the difference between him playing in round one and round two.
Sure.
So if he's really going to actually have a shot to play, for him to start skating and start this process in the middle of January,
decent sign.
It gives him a chance. It keeps the door ajar. The big thing here is just how does he feel after?
Sure.
Because what he was doing out there today probably didn't hurt.
What he was doing out there today also barely consists of skating.
Yeah. Like it's a start. It's day one,
I'm not sure that dude took a single stride today.
So it's like you have to get to step one before you get to step two.
For sure.
There's only reason for everybody to feel good about it right now. Not good about it in that he's coming back, he's not coming. Just for all the people that come into our chat every single day or send us tweets all the time when we talk about it, people just need to accept he's never coming back. Like, this at least gives you the chance. Yep. If he never got on the ice, you would say he's not coming back. Mm-hmm. So this opens that door up. It's only a good thing. And you just have to be thrilled for the guy.
Of course.
It's his livelihood. He hasn't been able to play in an AHL game in 2 years.
Yeah, it's of course we've always wanted nothing for the best for Gabe. However that process ends up going.
Yeah,
but as you guys already said, it's super nice to see him just out there at all, and we'll see. Over the next week, does he skate more multiple times? Well, how much does he start adding to the bag over the next month, over the next 2 months?
Yeah.
Are you really having that conversation before the end of March? No.
If he's going to make it for round one, by the end of March, you want to see it ramped up to where he's at least in a non-contact with the team.
Sure.
I think that should be the goal here. Because then that gives him 2 weeks practicing with the team.
At real speed.
Yeah. So when round one were to roll around, and I say round one or round two, like he couldn't just drop into game 4 whenever he wanted, but like that's I just think that's probably like a rough outline. Like that's the goal here.
Yeah. And
January, whatever today is, start skating.
just my point being, it's great that he's skating. Let's not oversell it just yet.
Totally.
Oh, no, there's ways to go. Yeah, I mean, you need some reps. You need to get your brain going. You forget about the injury, like the leg injury. You need to get your mind going. You need to get reps in there. You need to,
Remember
game
what a puck looks
situations,
like,
and there's a lot. I mean, the National Hockey League is a fast league. It's a tough league, and you have to get yourself amped up for it. So you don't just say, "Oh, you cleared to go," and then all of a sudden the next day you play. Right? It doesn't work that way. So
If this were an off season, this would be like him skating on like July 1st.
yeah, exactly.
Lot of ramp up. He's got to
Yeah.
get the conditioning back to it, and he's got to be fully healthy.
For sure.
There's a long way to go, but for today,
Yeah. Positive vibes on it for sure.
100%.
And potentially positive vibes down the Avs lineup as well, as both Chris Wagner and Jean-Luc Foudy were reassigned to the Colorado Eagles off of season opening IR. Wagner in particular seems healthy. Looks like he should play for the Eagles this weekend.
really, really hoping he plays tomorrow when we're there.
Should be fun if he gets in.
P.S. We're going to be at the Eagles game tomorrow. You guys,
If you
See
go
us,
to
say
Eagles
hello.
games. Yep, exactly.
whole gang will be there, so it'll be fun.
Yeah, should be a good time. But the thing with Wagner that becomes more interesting is at the start of the year, his role was probably slated to be pretty minimal. But he's coming back to health at a time where you're looking at the bottom of the Avs lineup and you're going, there's some holes here. You just played Jason Poland for 2 games in a row. You're still playing Curtis McDermott on a regular basis. A guy like Yoel Kiviranta's on your third line.
Yeah.
There could be room for Wagner to potentially get NHL games.
Those are definitely, right now, those are 3 spots that you're like, there's got to be better.
Yeah.
You know that you're at most 2 weeks away from Miles Wood and Arturi Lehkonen taking 2 of those spots.
Sure.
So, and you know that that's Poland. This is
Poland for
definitely
sure.
distracting and weird. It's going to take some getting used to. It's definitely Poland and McDermott, the 2 that you're looking at going, those are those 2 spots. Kiviranta's that 3rd spot where you're just saying, hasn't given us a lot. Hasn't been a lot of good. It hasn't been god-awful. As frustrated as we might get with a 4th-line guy who occasionally fails to do some basic things, whatever. But with Chris Wagner, Chris Wagner was supposed to be part of this. He was not signed to be Brad Hunt, veteran guy in the AHL, whatever. He was signed because they wanted him to be part of this NHL mix. And then has the Achilles injury immediately.
Yep.
He should be a guy that we start looking at in the run up to the deadline. It would not surprise me at all if where Kiviranta is now, Chris Wagner ends up for a little while.
Well, to your point, there's a reason he signed here, right? I mean, he looked at the rosters, and that's what you do when you're a free agent and there's interest. And obviously, he's
Clearly liked his previous tenure here enough that he said,
exactly. And then he's been in, the Boston organization for a few years now, so he's playing the right way. And is he perfect? No, but he's a serviceable 4th-line guy, right? And then I think as a player, you see that. You look at the depth charts and you're like, yeah, maybe that's a good place for me. You know what I mean? And then it's a little marriage, a little mutual agreement between them and, I'm talking about the Avs and the player. And then he's like, all right, let's do it. And then unfortunately he gets hurt. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the lineup the last few games, then you can see that he was probably right on gambling that he was going to get on the Avs lineup this year, not just be in Loveland, like you said, to your point, right? So
I don't know if he ever spent a bunch of time at center in Boston.
I don't remember.
I'd have to actually go back and check, but if we just figure him to fit into the right wing conversation, having a right wing depth chart in your bottom 6 as Logan O'Connor on your 3rd line and Chris Wagner on your 4th line.
Because it wasn't Corrali at center. It was like Corrali and then Wagner on the right.
their bottom six shifted enough that
Yeah, but
boy, I would have a hard time with that.
God, I don't remember.
Yeah. So I'm assuming
Yeah.
I'm planning for him to be right wing.
Yeah.
Because if he's going to be in the middle of the ice, this is entirely speculative to me and this is just me not doing my homework because bad job by me. But if he's in that right wing mix, you have Logan O'Connor on your third line and Chris Wagner and Chris Wagner and Andrew Cogliano, little speed demons that are going to make your life kind of a living hell.
Yep. You're
You
starting
know.
to round out a depth.
Well, and
Roster.
you talk about, oh, God, you wish you could really have two LOCs.
Yeah.
Well,
Might be as close as you're going to get.
Chris
Yeah.
Wagner does a pretty good LOC impression.
I like that.
So, that's and like when Kovalenko were to get here, if Landeskog were to get healthy, probably pushes
You
him
cross
down.
those bridges when you get there.
Exactly, but you still have 2 months worth of hockey to play before we're talking about Kovalenko getting here.
Yep.
It's starting to get a little exciting though, because you're like, you root for them to lose in round one, baby.
Getting closer.
Yeah.
It's we'll see exactly how like roster lineups shake out. And
Yeah.
Also, Chris Wagner needs to get back and play some professional hockey.
Yeah, the injury can't have taken away the speed.
Yeah.
Because that's a huge element of the interest there. So let's, we're way jumping the gun here. But the guy clears and gets sent down, and we're like, put him on the fourth line. But, like, yeah. In a couple of weeks, you see what he's got, if he's doing well with the Eagles, and if the Kiviranta, they haven't made any kind of move. Kiviranta is still that open spot. Chris Wagner. And then, Jean-Luc Foudy, just go do your thing, man. Just be healthy.
Yeah, of course. So, good news on the injury front for the most part for the Avs today specifically.
And
Definitely.
Lecky, right? They talked about Lecky, I think, saying
Yeah,
probably on the road trip. Right?
he's-
So,
Yeah.
Awfully close.
that's good.
He's going to go on the road trip. If he plays, it'll be at the end of the road trip.
Yeah.
My only,
And
my only concern is Woody Woodpecker.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we called that one yesterday, right? Probably.
Yeah, not gonna
flying,
travel.
Yeah.
But keep that guy in a bubble away from
Yeah,
the team.
yeah.
it-
Make him fly on his own.
he goes through all this, right? He's so sick he can't play for a week's worth of NHL games. Then you put him on the team playing, he gets everybody else sick.
Yeah.
You lose
No.
5 games in a row.
It's a tough look.
Yeah.
That's how it goes down.
Thanks, Miles. Yeah, no, just don't travel with the team.
Hopefully he's feeling better, though. God, that's been a while now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about for sickness. Like, you know what I mean?
And illness is usually like 1 or 2 games
like,
tops.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
Yeah, hopefully everything's good.
it's going to be a tough road trip because it's like if they had Wood, if they had Lecky, if they had Manson, they had Byram, you'd feel way better about it.
Yeah.
And it's like those guys are going to be ready like maybe the end of the road trip. You start to get those guys back or halfway through it where you're like, damn it.
Yeah.
You're going to go through some tough games first.
Yep.
Oh, well.
Schedule is what it is. You can't change it, unfortunately.
Yeah, just go smoke Toronto.
I did want to talk about the Avs a little bit on the whole. Today, right now, by points percentage, they are ranked 5th in the NHL. That is ahead of teams including Florida, Dallas, Toronto, LA, and Vegas, if you're rounding out the top 10. Fair assessment to put the Avs as a top 5 team in the NHL right now? Under? Over? How do you guys feel?
I think that's fair. I mean,
Okay.
for me, I mean, they're arguably, if I'm just looking on paper, forget about winning percentage, they're arguably the top team in the NHL. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, for me,
Yeah.
I would probably put them at 1 or 2 at the start of the season. That's where we had them, I think they've delivered. Has it been flawless? No. And we've talked about it at length. Has it been perfect? No. But been good enough where they're top 5 in winning percentage. You know what I mean? Which you can take it all you want with those stats and everything. But for the most part, we go back to those 10-game segments. I mean, they're pretty amazing 10-game segments. And now this, was it the 5th one? Yeah, the 5th one. Now you're 2-0. 2-0.
2-0.
So it's a good start to that one, and going into a tough road trip coming up here with those 5 games. Hopefully you come back and you have a successful road trip, and you're in a good shape again for your 10-game segment. So I think that's the way you got to look at it.
A 3-2 road trip puts them at 5-2 in the 10-game segment.
Yep.
If you have a winning road trip, you're like, all right, here we go again.
And this is one of 2 very hard road trips that they have.
Yeah.
This road trip and the one immediately out of the All-Star break.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the rest of the season,
It's pretty.
the schedule eases up. This is the hard part.
Yeah.
The next 18 games, the hardest part of their schedule. Their last 7 games are also pretty. They could be challenging.
Yeah.
But also, like, a thing that we have not talked about at all, the Avs have played 42 games this year.
One of the most in the league.
They are tied with 2 other teams for most in the league.
Yeah.
Yep.
We haven't talked about it a lot, but they have been playing a March schedule for the last several weeks.
Yep.
When are all these? I've heard a couple of people. When are all these teams going to make up these games in hand? They're going to be playing while the Avs are chilling.
Yeah.
Come March
and April, a lot of teams are going to be every other night,
Yeah.
back to back, no 2-day break, things like that. The Avs don't have a whole lot of that.
Right. Normally March is every other. Normally March is 16 games in 30 days.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's not the case for the Avs.
It is.
The Avs have, in February, they have as many games in a 29-day month because it's a leap year. And
true.
they play on.
Yeah, they do.
Is it called leap day?
Yeah, it's leap day.
Is it leap day? Yeah.
They play on leap day, which I think is cool. I wonder what their record
Yeah,
on
I
leap
wonder
day
what
is.
the all-time leap day record.
Is it every 4 years, right?
Yeah.
Leap year?
Every
Yeah,
4 years.
Every 4,
Yeah.
yeah.
They play as many games in the 29-day February as they do in March. Like, their March eases way up, and they're going to start to get some of that rest, which to me, that's what you want.
Agree.
But you're not in March now. You're
getting through it
You're
right
in the
now.
hard part.
Yeah.
You're in the ringer. It's for the next. They've got the All-Star break coming up and all that, but
You've got, it's basically 10 days from today left because you get a nice 3-day break. From
Yeah,
the
there's
20th.
that 3 break
Yeah.
before that
Yeah.
first game back, which we were going to, remember you come back, and I'm a big believer in this one. Like, I'm a big believer. You come back from a big road trip back east, you come back, that first game's a wash. I'm telling you. You
it's
throw in the
essentially a
garbage.
road game.
But they have 3 days before that game. So now for me, it reneges my.
You get to sleep in your own bed a couple times.
You know,
yeah.
you get back to your routine and run your
true.
errands. And, so for me, that game, I would always look at it and say, oh, that's a scheduled throwaway, right? You know what I mean? Like, here you go. That's a schedule, an X on the schedule. But when you have 3 days, then it's all the excuse is out the window. Because I always say it's not an excuse, it's a reality.
Yeah.
But on this one, with the 3-day break, which is awesome coming back from that trip, throw it out the window. There's no more
It's
excuse.
3 days, and then they play 2 games
So
in 3 days,
empty
and then
days.
they have, and then it's All-Star break.
Yes. So
That last game against the Kings is going to be cool. Which, by the way, is a takeover game
I was
for
just
us.
going to say,
Yep.
yeah.
There are very limited tickets still available also. Mm-hmm. Vast majority of them have been sold. So if you want to get in on the takeover.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun game, too.
Yep.
That's a good game.
Handful of tickets left for the January 26th takeover game.
I didn't know that our other takeover is on trade deadline day.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That could be an awkward game. There could be some
weirdness for sure.
Yeah. Is that guy going to get to the rink or not? Can Lindholm get from the airport to Pepsi Center and drop into that lineup or not?
It's fun. I've lived it. As a player, it's fun. You look like you're waiting, and
I'm very
go home
excited
now. Oh, yeah.
to get closer to deadline
Yeah.
and get some deadline stories.
Yeah.
well, I've lived it as a player, lived it with working for teams, but it's fun. It's exciting,
Should be fun. Join us for the takeovers. And even if you already have tickets, you can get bus-only tickets. You just want to come hang out with the gang for the
Yeah, just
takeover.
want a vibe.
Yep.
And it's
I'm
fun
going
to
to
just
actually
the
get
last
wild
game.
and go to that one.
What world are we living in right now?
And it's fun, too, because it's the last game before the break, right? So
Yeah.
everyone's kind of like, okay, as a team, you're
Finish
like,
strong
let's
here,
finish
yeah.
strong. And 2 good teams, right?
Oh, yeah.
I know the Kings are going through a little bit of a biff, but, at the end of the day, it's a good team.
It's going to feel like the last game before COVID shut the world down against the Rangers. Where everybody was like, this is it. Never seen anybody again.
I left in the early second. I was like, I kept getting the text, like, what are you doing? Like, this is getting shut down.
Yeah.
And I remember I had my kids at the game, so I texted them, be in the hallway. They're like, why? I'm like, we're leaving. They're like, what? It's second period. I'm like, yeah, we're leaving.
Tough one out there.
That was weird. Because remember the NBA shut down first.
Mhm.
So.
It shut down during warm-ups.
That's what I mean. Like, it was right before.
Everyone
so
was,
everyone was like,
we're just kind of milling around like, are they going to play this game?
Yeah. We were all sitting in the press box like, wow, this is crazy. And then it dawned on all of us, like over time, we were like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
The NHL always does what the NBA does.
Yep.
Left in
This
the
is
second.
happening.
And they finished the night and then immediately announced, we're shutting down.
Yeah.
What was the score in that game? Do we remember?
JT Confer won it in overtime.
I think
That's
it
the
was-
only
I
thing
think it was
remember.
3-2.
oh, yeah, they finished the game. That's right. What am I
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, I think it was.
I
It was
didn't
3-2. JT Confer like barely got the Cale Makar point shot tip in overtime. It's pretty fun.
I don't remember.
On that note, we are brought to you by High Plains Strains. Look, all I'm saying is if you want to enjoy your trade deadline day, get a little High Plains Strains while you watch the trades roll in. It's a good time.
We should for our live show this year. I think we're going to be in studio
Yeah, I'm assuming so.
for one of our patented 5-hour
Chill
marathon
streams,
shows.
yeah.
We should just get some High Plains strains for that.
There we go. We'll be vibing. 3 different locations in northern Colorado, Log Lane Village, Garden City, and Sedgwick. So anywhere up there, they are the dispensary for you. You can also save time by ordering ahead online at highplainstrains.com. Tons of great deals when you mention the DNVR code, whether it be their Veritas 8s for $20, a bunch of other options too. There we go. $80 for a full ounce, and a bunch of other weed terminology that I definitely know and don't just say. Look, this is what I like about dispensaries being a thing, like High Plains Strains, because I can just go in there and be like, give me some, and then they'll give me some.
Here's the thing I think a lot of people don't realize is that indica and hybrids and like sativas, that's like such a thing of the past. You just have to go tell your bud tender how you want to feel.
Yeah,
And then
my
it's-
bud tender.
Yeah, your bud tender. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
The people behind the counter. That's all
Yeah,
you have to
no,
do.
I got you.
Okay. You just tell people how you want to feel and they'll hook you up with all. You don't need to know all the terminology.
It is great because every time I go in there, because I don't know anything, I go in there and that's what I do, and I get exactly what I'm after, and then forget all of it and have to repeat the process the next time I go. I mean, it's the same thing when I go like get my oil changed or whatever. You know, like I don't know anything about cars. I always ask
Just
questions.
do the thing, yeah.
I ask questions because I'd like to know more, and then it just goes right through my brain.
Aren't you boys tired? Yeah, that's the job. Always tired.
Yeah, man.
So,
These are tough turnarounds, but
funny thing.
it's fine.
Big E woke up when the other two went to bed. So,
Because I got kids, so I leave and I get my 4 hours before they even shut it down. Then they get up when, and then they get their 4 hours after. So it's nuts.
You just make it work.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
Yeah, it's always funny messing around on social media and you see the
Yeah.
Eric Lacroix has reposted.
And they're just going to bed.
Yeah, and it
Right?
was like I'm just putting the mask on and like settling in,
Yep.
pulling up an episode of Cobra Kai to fall asleep to.
Cobra Kai.
We're also brought to you by Bet365. Fantastic deals going on right now with Bet365. When you sign up with the DNVR 365 code, you put $10 in your account. We will give you a free DNVR shirt. Take a picture or screenshot of your account with $10 in it. Send it to promo@thednvr.com, and you'll get yourself a coupon code for a free DNVR shirt or hat. And with Bet365, if you bet $5 on the NHL right now, you can get $150 in bonus bets. But you got to make sure you sign up with the DNVR 365 code to do that. So sign up, get in on that, all of that good action. Join the Bet365 gang today. Must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast, and we have a Bet365 Never Ordinary Top 5 to go through that I don't know anything about. AJ put this one together. I don't even know what the topic is. So we'll leave it to AJ to take us away on this top 5.
Hold on. Sorry.
He's
No, I'm- I
furiously
wasn't ready.
tapping away.
I'm messaging Tiff. Yeah, so this is the top 5 player power moves. Guys that did not want to play for their organizations.
Ooh, I'm getting up for this one.
So I've got a deep cut that I think people are either don't know about, and I think Eric's going to appreciate.
All right.
My whole goal is just to try to impress Eric. So
I know exactly 2 players on this list for sure.
Yeah, me too.
I think you probably know 4 of them if you just give it any thought at all.
Sure.
It's pretty easy.
I mean, are you getting the latest one in there too?
Yeah, number 5.
There you go.
Number
Perfect.
5.
Yeah, yeah,
It's Cutter Gauthier.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think this is going to be one of those stories that we remember for a long time. You don't see prospects of this caliber
Do that very often.
traded in this manner very often. Normally, and we'll get to it, it's a guy that says, I don't want to play for you.
Don't draft me, please.
beforehand."
Yeah.
This was a weird situation. A player just ghosts an organization and does not tell them exactly what it is that that caused him to change his mind, which is very different. This will be a quicker top 5 than most of the other ones that we do because I just don't have a lot to say about it.
That's fine.
I don't remember which one ended up as number 4, but it's one of them. All good. Kevin Hayes.
Sure.
Kevin Hayes was an interesting one because, again, you don't see first-round picks in the modern era do this because it requires going to school for 4 years.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with most of these guys. And, Kevin Hayes was a later first-round pick, so there was a slower burn to it. It's interesting with Kevin Hayes because he was not a very, he didn't figure it out until halfway through his college career.
Yep.
And then are you going to sign the guy after the junior year? He's only had one good college season. Chicago decided to wait on him for another year. He had a phenomenal senior season playing next to a guy that I don't remember and Johnny Gaudreau. And they
Who
were
was in that
awesome. He was like Beanpot MVP. He was first all-conference, all this stuff, right? He was awesome his senior year. It was Mark something or other. It's like the tip of my brain.
I'll tell you right now.
But yeah, Kevin Hayes was great in his senior season and then walked. And it had a profound effect on how the Blackhawks operated with their draft picks in the future.
Yep.
You can draw a straight line between the Kevin Hayes situation, where he went to the New York Rangers, and their aggressive approach with prospects in the immediate aftermath of that,
Yep.
where they started rushing all their guys.
Signing them, in some cases, too early.
Exactly. And so very interesting. The...
Billy Arnold, is that him?
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
Kevin Hayes was kind of a just first round picks just don't do this. You'll see on this list there are other first round picks, but they are many, many years apart. It's rare for a first round guy to do this. Chicago got a compensatory second round selection,
Yep.
whom they used to select a guy that nobody has heard of since.
As
Guy that
is
didn't make
usually
it.
the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tough. Kevin Hayes, kind of an interesting one. Number 3 on this list, a guy that told 2 organizations, no thank you. Told both of them, I'm not interested in signing. I want to be a New York Ranger. And that's that. That's all there is to the story. Adam Fox. And then turned out to be one of the best defensemen in the NHL. Eric, I know you were with
we
Calgary when
I was with Calgary.
this
We
happened.
traded him to Carolina, and I remember Carolina saying, like, why don't you guys just throw Fox in the deal, and which he ended up being part of the deal, but he wasn't going to sign in Calgary. He had made it very clear, and he's good friends with Matthew Tkachuk from the program and everything, and he's like, no, he ain't signing here. So you're kind of it's a dead asset at some point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we kind of packaged him up in that deal. Then Carolina knew too. They just wanted a shot at it too, and then they ended up obviously trading him and getting an asset for it, right, to the Rangers. I don't remember what it was for, maybe a 3rd round pick or something
I think
like
it was
that.
like a 5th.
Yeah,
I mean, because your leverage is so low
Yeah.
at that time, But yeah, so I mean, he's a kid from the back east, and he wanted to, he wanted to play for the Rangers, but he said it first, right?
Well,
I don't want
very
to.
upfront about it. Way different than these
Right.
other guys.
Yeah.
Cutter Gauthier said, "I'm all about this." Danny Briere went on to one of the show's podcasts today and said, we tried to sign him.
Yep.
We had a contract ready. We tried to sign him.
Yep.
And
wouldn't
he
talk
said,
to us,
he said he wouldn't talk to us. So very different situation there. And Kevin Hayes, like,
Late bloomer.
spent 2 years not being a guy that you wanted to sign.
Yeah.
Then broke out, then figured it out. And then by that point,
I do think there's an interesting comparison here, right? Because on one hand, you can take a look at Adam Fox and the way he did it and said, well, he did it the right way. At least he told teams and was upfront about it. Mm-hmm. Most guys aren't saying, I'm only playing for one team in the entire league.
yeah.
But no one really got a ton for Adam Fox. And then you look at Cutter Gauthier's way, and did he do it a shitty way? Sure. Flyers were still able to get a decent package in return for that guy.
Little different. Adam Fox was not a top 5 pick.
I was just going to say,
I get there's different valuations there,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And because he was a Harvard guy, everybody knows that the Harvard guys
always
stay.
walk, yeah.
They stay, man. There's
Shout out Alex Kerfoot.
Jimmy Vesey.
lots of Harvard guys have hit free agency relative to the other schools. So Adam Fox, kind of an interesting situation.
Then everyone should know the top two.
Do you? Number 2, Brian Berard.
How do you not
my God, I
put
remember
Patrick
that.
Law on this list?
Who?
I don't know, because I was thinking more like
Slacking.
these are guys that never played for their teams that drafted them.
I understand the angle. But
Yeah. So that was really it. Brian Berard, drafted first overall in 1996 by the Ottawa Senators, goes to training camp, does not make the team, gets mad about it, and says, trade me. And in the spring of 1997, becomes a New York Islander.
Yep.
It's true. I remember that.
Imagine, think of how differently prospects and ELCs have changed the NHL landscape. Imagine any of the last 15 years worth of drafts. The kid that goes first overall
Yep.
is traded in the spring of the following year. He hadn't even had a chance to do anything yet. And the first overall pick says, I didn't make the team.
I'm out.
I don't think I trust this, and demands to be dealt. And they do it. How much has it changed in the last 30 years that's
Crazy.
the case? Because he was 90, I think it was 96 he was the first overall.
Something like that.
It just, this is why the Cutter situation is so surprising, right? Because the modern NHL draft, teams have done so much research. They interview these kids. They talk to everybody they've ever known in their entire lives.
That's why they're mad, right? Philly.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's,
Because
They did 6 months worth of homework that
Yeah.
got flushed down the toilet, and they don't even know why.
those things just don't happen like that anymore because teams know if a player wants to play with them. And if they don't, then they don't draft them.
he did come out today and said that it was a multiple of.
Yeah, he didn't give any
Okay,
specifics.
he didn't say it. He
though.
just said it's a multiple of things, but
There were
not gonna
things that
get
made me
into it.
uncomfortable
Yeah.
with my future. I'm like, cool.
All right.
Again, he doesn't owe us anything.
No.
So
Sure.
I think it goes back to Tuesday's episode when we first talked about this, with when you and Megan were talking about like the adults that should be around him and like kind of teaching him, the right way
There's
to
a way
do
to be.
these things. Yeah. I think that was like a huge point that you made Tuesday that I think really stuck with me on this whole thing.
yeah, and all these things that Chad is bringing up about, we don't know what Cutter Gautier's reasons are. It's purely
no.
speculative at this point.
Yep.
He knows, I'm sure. His parents probably know. Beyond that, who knows? Anyway, Brian Berard. I just thought that was a crazy trip.
remember
Like
that.
he gets forgotten about a little bit in NHL history because he was like a pretty big prospect in his own right. I mean, he had drafted first overall. Obviously, people think you're going to be pretty good, but his career gets derailed by that horrific eye injury that he somehow came back from and ended up being a pretty good player after.
Yeah.
You see what he
wild,
was.
yeah.
You
Very
see what he was
talented.
after that injury. Brian Berard, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, but Brian Berard, a guy that would have been unbelievably good in today's NHL.
Absolutely, because he was so different back then. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I'm not going to compare it to Makar, but it was
Sure.
like, it was different. You know what I mean? Like, you know how Makar's different than the other ones? You're like, oh, well, this guy's weird. You know, he's different. Like, actually, Tortorella said that about Drysdale yesterday, you know, called him a rover. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, he could be maybe a rover. You know what I mean? And Berard was kind of that, you know, and he could skate like the wind, and the jersey was flopping, and he was a tremendous player. So, yeah, in today's NHL, he would have been fun to watch. But you're right. Even with, you know, after the eye injury, he was still very productive. You know what I mean? Like, he was still a good player. So,
Pretty
crazy stuff.
yeah, and it just will always blow me away. Number one overall pick gets moved.
That quickly.
It's not even one full year from
Yep.
you use the first pick in the draft
Yep.
on a guy, and then you trade him. What would a number one overall pick, even a guy that has not blown up, a Lafreniere, a Slavkovsky, what would those guys fetch in a deal?
I don't
A
know.
lot.
See, you'd have to think so, right?
Yeah.
Like,
A first an NHLer, maybe plus.
maybe a better comparable would be an Owen Power, just because defenseman to defenseman.
Yeah.
Sure.
You have a guy that you think could be a franchise caliber defenseman is 18 years old. It's like, I'm not going to play for you. I don't want to do that.
Not that it was the I'm not going to play for you angle of it, but look at the EJ trade.
Yeah. It's a pretty heavy price that they got for Eric Johnson at his age. And that was after a major knee injury,
Right.
you know.
There were other circumstances there too. So, yeah, you probably get pretty good. I mean, the guy we're about to talk about was the ultimate value trade. So,
the ultimate, I think everybody ended up pretty happy with it because number one on the list, of course, is Eric Lindros.
Yeah.
And again, the difference between Eric Lindros and Cutter Gauthier, because there have been a lot of people who are like, Flyers fans. Eric Lindros told Quebec right from the jump.
2 months before the draft, he was like, "Don't draft me.
Don't do
Like,
it.
Yeah.
And to date, I think it's one of the coldest draft day moves I've ever seen in all of the drafts that I've watched. Not putting that thing on.
No jersey on, no hat on.
Tosses
yeah.
over the shoulder. He's like, I got to do, I'm being polite. I told these dudes not to do this.
Yeah.
You know, like cold. Props to him. Stuck to his guns, had his reasons for it. Honestly, and vilified.
Yeah.
I was
Later, yeah. Like, what,
One?
20 years later? 25 years later?
when this happened, so I did not live through this.
Yeah.
But the hockey world being what it is, you can look back on it, and people just crucified the guy.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And
He's now married to a Quebecer.
yeah,
His wife's French and from Quebec, and you know, and it was crazy times because they actually traded him to two places. So they didn't have central registry back then the
Yeah.
way it is now, and there was a lawsuit afterwards saying the New York Rangers saying that they had made the deal for Eric Lindros, and then you had Philly, that was the deal that was announced, and it was a brouhaha, mayhem, nuts. Like I said, lawsuits. It was put on hold for a few days, if I remember, and then there's names out there, and there's it was crazy names on both sides. You know, I remember Tony Amonte was part of the Rangers. I mean, whatever. It ended up being great for Nordiques because the Philly deal was better than the New York Rangers, and that's why they, probably like, oh, we like this one better, and then, so I'm not too sure. Again, I was a player at the time. I don't remember, but what I'm trying to say is that was a lot of ruckus, around it, and like you said, it was shockwaves for a long time.
you think about, obviously everything worked out. The Flyers went to a Stanley Cup final with Eric Lindros. Got smoked, but it happens. Those Detroit teams are pretty good.
Yep.
The Avs get Peter Forsberg.
Yeah. A decent piece of the puzzle that ends up getting them Patrick Wall later on.
like they end up in a pretty good spot out of it.
Yep. Both teams kind
It's
of won there.
crazy to me to think that the same organization drafted Joe Sakic, Eric Lindros, and Matt Sundin.
Yep.
Owen Nolan too, right after.
Yeah, fuck him.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, yeah, pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah. And the Lindros deal is still, to this day, one of the most talked about trades
Oh, yeah.
in sports history. And it was a sad day when the trade tree
Yeah, the final branch.
finally came to an end. What was it, when Paul Stastny
random
left in free agency?
Gormley, I think, was the real
Like-
final piece. Yeah.
You're talking, it was what, almost a 30-year trade tree?
Yep.
Yeah.
Might have even been 30 years.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
Out of control.
And before him, there was Mario too that threatened the Pittsburgh Penguins that he don't draft me. I'm not going to your table. And you can look back on the images, like he gets picked number 1, and he just stands up and waves at the crowd, sits back down, doesn't go to their table. Ended up working out
Yeah,
fine.
it turned
'cause
out all right for Pittsburgh.
It turned out all
in the
right.
end,
Yeah,
that
I mean, he
one.
ended up going, obviously. And,
He ended up owning the team
Yeah.
literally.
No, but when you think about the relationship,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
ended up an owner, and he still is part, big part of the team now still. But if you go back to his first day, which is usually your first day with an organization, is draft day. He doesn't go to their table. He doesn't put the jersey on. That's a good power move too. I mean, it ended up working out because at the end of the day he worked, so he wouldn't be able to be on our list. But that's pretty cool, though. It's like, whoa, okay.
Honorable mention on this list is obviously John Elway,
Nah.
because him getting
Sure.
traded to the Broncos
Yeah.
changed the entire outlook of Denver sports history, and maybe none of us would even be sitting here today without that happening. So shout out to the original Don't Draft Me diva.
Fun times.
Yeah.
That was the Bet365 Never Ordinary Top 5. Do want to jump back into our topic of the day, though. We were talking about this a little bit the other night off air. Is Winnipeg for real? They're the betting favorites to win the cup right now. I'm not saying they're a bad. Obviously, they're a very good team. You don't become a very good.
Yeah.
You're not a. If you're at the top of the league, you have to be a very good team. But how good is very good? Is this great? Is this legitimate? Best chances to win the cup? What are your vibes here?
I'll go first because he's way more. I make jokes all the time that it's AJ's favorite team. We all know that. He's very familiar with them. That's not his favorite team. But that's why I'll take a few seconds before giving you the floor. But for me, it comes down to, and maybe I'm wrong, but even go back to the Avs when they turned things around. Remember the Eric Johnson, interview is we want guys that want to be here, right? You know what I mean? And I'm talking about the Dutchy trade and, there's a
Guys who are pulling the rope in the same direction.
That's
is
it.
what he
And
said.
it makes a difference. And it just seems like there was a bit of a disconnect, a little bit of a shit show the last few years there in Winnipeg, right? There's always seems to have something going on. There was always some dysfunctional, and everybody thought that Hellebuck and Scheifele were going to walk, and obviously those signings were huge for them this summer. They get rid of Dubois that doesn't want to be there, fair, and then all of a sudden, even with the loss of the guy we all like here, 81 there, I'm having a blank.
Kyle Connor.
Kyle Connor.
Ugliest
Even
guy
with
in
a
the
lot, I
league.
mean, they're probably their best. Arguably, for me, their best player. They still, I've been able to overcome that. Why? Because their goaltending's been unbelievable. They don't give up goals. And I know AJ's got all the numbers and everything, but what I'm trying to say is when the environment is not toxic, they pulled a little bit behind. Bonuses, absence of, because of his wife's, whatever she was going through, right? And the team rallied behind that a little bit, and it seems like they've enjoyed themselves. You know what I mean? And they've enjoyed going to the rink, and the results have been there. I mean, are they going to hold it? That's what AJ can talk about, and you guys, way better at numbers than I am. But I just like the fact that guys seem to want to be there right now, and it's showing in the results.
I mean, I'll tell you this: they're not going to go another 30 games without giving up 3 goals.
But that's my point, yeah. Which is absurd.
Yeah, I think we were talking about things like culture and just that attitude shift. For my money, 2 things happened that were really big. No more Blake Wheeler,
Yeah.
Exactly.
who I guess I'll just package it up. No more Blake Wheeler or Pierre-Luc Dubois.
And Wheeler was your captain,
Two guys who were not. By the end there, I know Blake Wheeler he was there for a long time.
That
Yeah,
last
yeah.
year is pretty common knowledge that locker room was not in a great place.
Yeah, and
looked
so
toxic.
I think
I mean-
you had a bad culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think really changed it was the preseason signings of Scheifele and Hellebuck, because Gabe Vilardi gets traded there, and he joked, he was like, "My girlfriend's not thrilled, to be going from
L.A. to
SoCal
Winnipeg.
to Winnipeg." Like, she's gonna dump me, dude. Like, it was a funny interview where he was, he's joking about it, but it's like, it speaks to like the perception.
Yeah.
Oh
Of
my
the
God,
city,
I'm
yeah.
going to hockey Siberia.
Yeah.
And when Scheifele and Hellebuck, and you're looking at, none of the guys want to stay there.
Yep.
They have to trade for guys that have multiple years on the contract, because then they're stuck. They can't choose to go somewhere else, right? Guys with RFA years, stuff like that, right? And Kevin Cheveldayoff, I loved it the day that it was made. It looks even better today. The Dubois deal, he doesn't do it for the classic futures. He says, I've got this group that I think can be competitive.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm going to go get pieces. And you go and you get Gabe Vilardi, Alex Iafallo, and Rasmus Kupari. All guys that can help your forward core. All guys that kind of fit. They fill holes. It gives them a very competitive top to bottom 1 through 12. Probably 1 through 14.
Sure.
The Dubois deal leaves a 2C problem, and that's their biggest issue. They are probably Colorado's biggest contender for the services of Elias Lindholm out west, because both teams would be able to make the money work.
Yep.
And both teams have the need and could look at it and say, this has to happen. Like, it's a double whammy of bad.
Yep.
If Winnipeg gets him, it's a big problem for Colorado. If Colorado gets him, it's a big problem for Winnipeg, because not only does one of your competitors level up, they get the best guy that was out that could have filled that job, and it's a direct competitor, somebody that is in your path
You're almost certainly playing
to a
them in the
conference final.
first or second round of the playoffs.
They are in your path to a conference final.
Yeah.
It's a big problem. Are the Jets for real being the big question here, though? In some ways, yes. All of their underlying numbers are good. They have shown to be a very good defensive team. They limit chances very well. They create more chances than the other team, which is impressive given Kyle Connor has been out for a little bit.
Yep.
Kyle Connor's also their worst defensive player. So as good as he is as a goal scorer, he's awful.
Does
awful.
give some of it back. Yep.
Awful defensively. He's awful defensively. So that hasn't mattered. Even before he got hurt, they were rolling. Their defensive game was good. Hellebuck is incredible. He's locked in. He should win the Vezina. It shouldn't be a conversation for me. This is an easy. Connor Hellebuck has been the shit this year. He's unreal. Stuff that is beating him is like, a puck deflected off of a stick and had a funny trajectory. It goes off a guy's knee. Not giving anything away. Nothing
get
gets
beat
given
clean,
away.
yeah.
And I say that, and one of the goals he gave up in Anaheim the other day was just him misplaying a puck, and he literally just gives it away. They win that game like 5-2. I think it was actually 6-2. Didn't matter. The Jets are good defensively. They capitalize offensively. Their power play has not been as good as you would think, given the
Yeah.
talent on hand. It's getting better. If they get all of their special teams in order, they're a real problem.
Oof.
All of the underlyings are in their favor except one.
PDO.
And their really, really astronomically high PDO is driven by a 5v5 save percentage over 94.
Don't care how good Hellebuck is. That's not a thing that people do.
If you are counting on that continuing, you are also counting on Vancouver being able to shoot 12.5% at 5v5. Those are both extremely unsustainable numbers. Those are not things that really happen at 5v5 over the course of a long period of time. And history has told us if they do keep up through 82, the playoffs course correct you real fast.
Yep. Just ask Boston.
Ask any of the PDO monsters over the last 10 years. None of them go far. None of them do much.
Yep. It's true. It's just the reality.
It's just not. We talk about it for a reason. The question is what happens when it goes sideways.
Yeah.
Because Eric, we keep mentioning LA, Vegas, these teams. It comes for all of us.
Oh yeah, it does.
Your health is gonna go sideways.
Something. You know?
Your goaltender is gonna go through a lull. Something is going to take place.
Shooters will go dry. I mean, they do. I mean,
Boston last year is a massive historical anomaly of a team that just rode the wave for 82 games
and that's why they got the record in the history of the league
and lost in the first round.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You also look at the last team that had that kind of historic regular season, Tampa Bay, gets swept in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
It comes for everybody. That lull always happens. It always happens.
Yep.
How does a team that has historically been emotionally fragile handle it when it comes for them?
We'll see.
That will be a major determining factor.
And we'll see. And the one point I forgot to say earlier on the culture was like, now you got a meat and potato guy and Lowry as your captain.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So there's we'll see how. Obviously it didn't work the years before with
And not a me first guy.
yeah,
like Wheeler.
Yeah, it didn't work under Wheeler. In a sense, I mean it's a team thing. But I'm saying now under Lowry's leadership, we'll see when and if it does. Like you said, it usually comes.
Yeah.
How they react to it.
Only time will tell.
That's a good hockey team though. If anybody thinks
Yeah.
that they're going to do exactly what they did last year, where they were first in the West and then almost they came very close to being the first team in NHL history to be leading
and not make the playoffs
and not make the postseason on it was like January 1st, I think.
That was close.
That's not this team. They're deeper, they're better, they're more cohesive, they play better team hockey. Defensively, they're much better. Am I trusting that Dylan DeMello and Nate Schmidt are going to hold up in a 7-game playoff series defensively in that way? I'm skeptical of it. Those are good players. But when you are going against Nathan McKinnon every single night, when you're going against Jason Robertson and Rupe Hintz every single night,
Yep.
that's, the postseason humbles everybody.
It's a different world for sure.
Yeah, I mean, even Wayne Gretzky stopped winning cups when he left Edmonton.
Yep.
Like the postseason in the NHL, it's why I think that it's why the Stanley Cup is the hardest trophy to win. You need an insane number of things
Yep.
to go right for you. And I will just say I'm always skeptical of teams. I am always skeptical of teams that have everything go right for them in December and January.
Yeah. I agree.
You need some adversity.
So, also, they already handed Colorado their asses twice is sort of true. First of all, they smoked them once in Winnipeg, no doubt about it. The game in Colorado was a 3-2, very, very close competitive hockey game. Give me a break. Also, you might end up with a first-round matchup against Dallas, who you have not beaten this year.
I just don't. Saying you beat this team in the regular season is always great for the team that wins. They get that to say that about themselves. It really isn't that big of a deal.
Remember not that long ago when the Avs had a first-round matchup against the Nashville Predators and the people tried to talk themselves into the Predators? Oh, they play this really hard physical style. It's going to slow the Avs down, and they beat them twice in the regular season or whatever. It might have even been 3 times in the regular season. This is not going to be a cakewalk. And the Avs blew their fucking doors off.
It's just
The regular season matchups don't matter, especially when most of them come in the first 60. I would even say 60 games.
yeah.
Not even before it was 60.
And you always got to look, too. A lot of times during the regular season, that was your 7th game in 10
Right.
10
Yeah.
days. The other team, they were fresh off. It's never an equal playoffs is.
Yeah.
Playoffs is because both teams are at the same number of days of rest and
Yeah.
same days of same games. And so there's a big difference. And playoffs is a different animal than regular season. So
Yeah, well, and guys that miss games that aren't available for a game
Yep.
in November, they're going to do whatever they can. They are going to put themselves through some
If they can stand up, they're playing.
exactly to play in a postseason game.
Yeah.
But you got to remember, they beat the Avs twice in that span there, and that's what it does. Gives you wings too, because you beat a good team. right? You beat good teams. All of
Yeah.
a sudden, you feel good about yourself. And since then, that's when Connor got hurt, right? Like in the second game, he didn't even play against the Avs. And then they've been on that, crazy sequence of awesome hockey. And now they believe in themselves, and it's great. Good for them. It's awesome.
Well,
Yeah, and at the top of the Central Division, you have that weird. Dallas has beaten Winnipeg twice. Winnipeg has beaten Colorado twice, and Colorado's beaten Dallas twice.
So
Where you're looking at it and you're just like, good. Who knows what the 1, 2, 3 is going to look like at the end of this season, and God knows what those playoff rounds are going to be.
yeah, could be anything. Could be any order at the end of the year. You don't know.
Really, really, really want to win the division, though. You're looking at that first round.
You want
going,
that wild card team.
Looking
for
at
sure.
the bottom of the
Yeah.
West, you're like, you really want to win that division.
Well, you can celebrate winning the division or whatever you're celebrating right now with Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR. Go get yours today, either here at the bar, 8 different kinds on tap, or anywhere in the 50 United States at your local liquor store. Use the Breck Beer Locator online at breckbrew.com. Then once you bring your beer home, you sit down on the couch, make sure you're watching Fubo TV. You can go to FuboTV.com/DNVR today. You can get your Avalanche there. You can get your Nuggets there. You can get all sorts of different sports there. Over 140 different channels, including sports, television shows, movies, and more with Fubo. So go check them out. When you use that FuboTV.com/DNVR link, you get 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro. It's awesome. It's super easy to use. One of the few things that make television easy to get, make your Avs easy to get. You don't have to jump through all these hoops. You can just watch Fubo. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. We'll be pretty quick here because we've gone fairly long. But I do want to talk about some of these other teams. You have Vegas, who's been in a lull for a good bit now. Yeah, they've had injuries to their goalies, sure. You have Vancouver, which, I think we on this podcast certainly believe that that's not sustainable. But how good are they, even so?
Yeah, you're not going to continue to get outlier offense and goaltending at the same time when defensively you're just okay. Hockey does not work that way.
Yeah.
Got to play good to be good, it turns out.
Yeah.
And in Vegas, it's more like the weird part about Vegas is they go on to win the Stanley Cup, and everyone talks about the Stanley Cup hangover, and I do believe it exists somehow. It does. It's normal. It's a long summer, but they flipped the script, by going the first 12 games
they were
without
like
losing a
11-0,
game.
yeah.
11-0
it's
and
weird.
1.
I would have seen more of the stretch they're on now to start the season, and then go kind of now on an 11-0. But that's a good team. We saw them last night. That's a good team. They got everything they need, and they've had some injuries too, as we know, and
So many injuries.
which has slowed them down lately. But this is going to be a team that's going to be there down the stretch there, especially now with the winning pedigree, and they know how to win, and that makes you real dangerous.
I am more skeptical than I was because this is not a bad 5 games or whatever.
It's like 15 now.
They've
you're talking
lost.
about.
They've
yeah.
lost 8 of 11, and since that 11-0-1 start, I think they were 12, 13, and 4.
Yeah, I was going to
Sub
say
500,
one below
yeah.
500. Yeah.
Like
Well, and that's
not great, man.
for a podcast who, I don't want to pat ourselves on the back too much, but very much stressed in the lulls of the Avs season. The Avs' worst stretch of this season was 500 hockey.
4-4-2. There has not been, and we lost 8 of 11 stretch.
Yep.
With a couple weird losses. Remember the 2 goals in the last minute? And
Yeah.
that was all part of that stretch.
Yep. So
Hockey things happen,
Yeah.
it just goes to show it's really, really hard to be a consistently good team.
Of course.
Avs are one of the few in the league that have been able to do that, certainly in the regular
A
season.
game dominated by its randomness.
Yep.
You're talking about
I like that.
you're talking about 82 of these things.
Yeah.
Stuff's gonna happen. You're gonna go through stretches.
Chalk up 20 of them to some nonsense going on. And some of that nonsense will go your way.
Yeah.
Some of it won't.
Yeah.
Oh, it does, yeah.
Tough league.
Hockey's hard, dude.
It's a tough league. It is a tough
Hockey
league.
is hard.
And then very quickly, just a couple minutes here. On the eastern side, you have New York, you have Boston, you have a team like Florida. Who do you guys like at the roughly halfway mark of the season? Who is your favorite coming out of the East? I'll tell you mine. It's Florida.
Okay. Well,
I think Florida
yeah.
is for real, man. And the way Bob is playing this year, if he can keep it up, that team is going to be a tough out yet again.
I think they're tough out for sure.
Fair enough.
Yeah, they're so good, dude. But also, we're having this conversation right when they're on.
They're playing their best
The
hockey.
same
I
thing
get
with
it,
Winnipeg,
yeah.
where it's like these two teams are right now probably in the midst of what will be their best stretches of the season, so it's very easy to buy stock.
The thing is, with Florida, the reason I see, yes, are they playing their best hockey right now? But you look at their defense and you go, you know what? You could get more out of Brandon Montour. You could get more out of Aaron Ekblad. You can see how that lineup can find more than, yes, they're playing very well. But
I really like what Boston is.
Yeah.
I also the other reason is more than just their goaltending is insanely good. Defensively, they are not as good as they have been in the past, but they are getting by with no 1C here. And that is the team out east that I'm like, that team lurks for Elias Lindholm.
yeah.
Lurks.
Oh, yeah.
Because they get that guy, and it ties that roster together, and
monster mode,
they
yeah.
can stop asking Pavel Zacha to be a 1C.
Yeah.
You know, and you maybe feel a little bit better about a middle lineup with Lindholm and Zacha and Charlie Coyle, or Charlie Coyle goes back to wing. Like,
You have Jake
it just-
DeBrusk in there somewhere.
it makes
yeah.
them so much better if they get that extra guy. They don't have that. They would not have that like 1C. But going down the middle,
They're
you're
a lot
talking
deeper
about
that way, yeah.
really good players. Not great, but really good players. And when you get elite goaltending, you're just
You can get away with some of that. Yeah.
Aiden Hill just wants to stay on the cup. Like,
Yep.
I like those two picks. I do, because I probably would have gonna go Florida, but then I'm gonna add New York Rangers.
yeah.
You know, I don't know why.
Totally fair.
And again, people think that my old man didn't like Chris Drury and all that stuff. Big fan of Chris Drury, so we're gonna shut people up with this one. And then, I'm pulling for the Rangers. You know, what I mean, I don't know why. I think this is a year where they, might do some damage in the East.
As good as the Rangers have been, Igor Shesterkin's just been fine.
Yeah. If he turns it up again.
Yeah.
For that guy to just be fine.
Yeah.
If he even gets to really good,
Tough team to get through right there.
dude, do not take a penalty against that team.
And a team that should have a little bit of a
Don't do it.
chip on their shoulder in the playoffs this year, right? Given they're
Yeah.
out last year early.
Yeah.
They kind of blew an opportunity to get out of that first round pretty quickly.
Yep.
A team I would not want to face early in the playoffs.
No.
But thankfully the Avs don't have
I was gonna say
Yeah.
that they only have one of these teams that they're really gonna have to worry about.
Garden Magic.
By the time you get there, you're not like, yeah, hell yeah.
You'll take anybody at that
Yeah.
point.
Unless, another Montreal Canadiens-esque run happens where you're like, Detroit made it, and then you get a Detroit-Colorado Stanley Cup final, and the Avs win in 4.
Yeah. One of those teams is better than the other. We will wrap up today's show by letting you know that you can call 222-2222 today and get Bacchus and Schenker's help if perhaps you've been injured for 2 years and have just started skating and you're not at fault because Cale Makar's skate blade chopped your cartilage. Think Landy would call Bacchus and Schenker on Cale?
He should.
Any situation where you've been injured and you're not at fault, Bacchus and Schenker has your back. You can go to coloradolaw.net or call the 2 number today to get a hold of them. They'll give you a free consultation, and when they take on your case, you pay nothing up front. They don't get paid until you get paid. So get with them. They've won over $1 billion for their clients. Bacchus and Schenker wins. That's all we got for today for you. We're going to get out of here. We will be off tomorrow. It's our day off, as AJ mentioned. If you happen to be going to the Eagles game, we're going up there as a beat tomorrow. So come say hi to us. We'll chat you up about hockey a little bit. We are back Saturday, of course, for the game, the usual stuff, pregame, postgame. The Nuggets play, I don't know. We might have a watch along. I'm always 50-50 on the other team schedules. But we appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Give us a like, give us a subscribe even on YouTube. That helps us out a ton. We're almost to the funny number of subscribers.
The nice number?
Yeah, the nice number. We're almost there. So help us get to that.
Let's go.
We will talk to you guys on Saturday.
We all silly like the mayor.